All right, guys, AQA A-level Biology Paper 1. Feels weird saying that because all my videos have been chem so far, but let's go. The whole point of this video is to teach you to study smarter, all right? A-levels are long, guys. They are so long. If you're anything like me, you did other subjects. I did 3 in total. Biology takes up an insane amount of time. It is such a long subject in terms of the amount of stuff you have to remember. So it's time to start studying smarter. You need to realize that A-level exams are like a game, guys. If you learn the rules of the game, you master the game, okay? And that's when it just comes down to practice and understanding the content. So where are the rules? The rules are in the specification, mark scheme, examiner's report, and past paper questions. Okay, that's essentially what I want you to understand here is that unknowingly, AQA has made rules to this game through their past paper questions, mark schemes, and examiner's report. And then the fundamental rules come in the specification. All right, so the whole point of this video is to tell you which topics you should focus on. All topics are not even, guys. They may take an even amount of time to revise, but they're not even in the eyes of the exam board in terms of whether they come up in the exam or not, right? Really try and understand this. So I've spent a long ass time, guys, analyzing the paper 1, 2017 to 2023, so 7 papers in total, looking at what you can do to increase your chance of getting an A or an A star. Okay, that's what this video is going to be about. But really important, guys, before we start, use this video as guidance only. I'm not a psychic wizard, master guru. I cannot predict the future. I want to make that clear. I cannot predict the future, okay? I don't know what's going to happen, paper 1, 2024, but this should give you a good idea of where to start. All right, so let's begin real quick with what content's involved in paper 1, okay? So you have all the year 12 stuff. So topics 1 to 4. Biological molecules, cells, organisms exchange substances with their environment, and lastly, genetic information, variation, and relationships between organisms. So these are the 4 overarching umbrella topics, right? And then under that, we have all the subtopics. So under biological molecules, you have 3.1.1, etc. That will be different subtopics under that overarching umbrella topic, okay? Hopefully that's really simple. And then also, guys, don't forget you have your required practicals. Now, a lot of people think this is just paper 3 stuff. No, that is incorrect. They can also come up in paper 1 and paper 2. Okay. Now, why 1 to 6? That's just simply because practicals 1 to 6 within the specification fall within these 4 topics. Okay, simple as that. All right, this is where it starts to get a bit more juicy. So as we can see here, this is a breakdown of the topics. Okay, I'll look at the subtopics in a second so you can see really where you should be spending your time. But this is just the overall topics, and this is the grade boundaries right here, okay? So what does this donut chart show us here? This just tells us the proportion of each topic. So for example, if you look at biological molecules right here, 21% of the marks in the 7 years of paper 1 was for biological molecules. And then on from there, 31% was for cells, 23% was for organisms exchange substances, and 26% was for genetic information. As we can see, straight off the bat, guys, cells is the #1 topic, okay? And then we have 3.4 genetic information, variation, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, this is just a sneak peek at a bird's eye view of which topics you want to focus on. It's helpful to begin with. So if you guys don't really care about anything else, just run away with this, focus on cells and genetic information for paper 1, and you should be ahead of the curve compared to everyone else. But if you really care about where you need to focus, carry on watching the video and it should help you out an absolute ton. So over here, we have all the grade boundaries. I thought I'd go through the grade boundaries because a lot of people are interested and it just gives you an idea of what you actually need to achieve for the most part in order to get an A or an A star, whatever your grade goal is, right? I've included C and D here, but hopefully you're not amongst that list, right? But yeah, let's take a look at A star. This is what I'm going to focus on in this video, these 2 right here. Now, as you can see, we have every year 2017 to 2023. On the left right here, and then we have an average raw marks. So this is all raw marks right here, and then we have an average percentage. So as you can see here, you need an average raw marks across the 7 years of 60 in order to get an A star. It dips up and down here and there, but for the most part, the average here is 60 marks to get an A star, which is 66%, right? And then we have an A, the average marks is 50 at 55%. So you only need to grab 55% of the marks in paper 1 to get an A. Like literally, like you can get half of the paper incorrect and still walk out with an A. And that is how deceivingly difficult biology is, guys. From all the grade boundaries I've looked at, in terms of raw percentage, biology is the hardest because I think people just people just struggle to, one, remember all the information, and two, apply it to a lot of these difficult synoptic questions. But yeah, keep that in mind. Grade boundaries. If you go in for an A, 50 marks out of 91. Not too bad. All right, cool. Grade boundaries done. Overall look at which topics you need to study done. Let's look at an individual paper so I can just sort of go into a bit more detail in terms of my philosophy around studying and exams and stuff like that, right? So this is paper 1 2020, just as a completely random example. If you've watched my other videos for chemistry, you should be well aware of what's going on here. This x-axis right here is just every single subtopic. So you saw previously how we had the overarching topics, right? Here is just one of the subtopics within that overarching topic. So 3.2.3, the 3.2 here tells us that it's within 3.2, cells, right? So that's a cells subtopic. So what we can see here on the y-axis is just the number of marks allocated to that topic. So the number of marks that were chucked onto the paper for that topic, right? So as you can see, transport across cell membranes is the biggest here, 16 marks, closely followed by gas exchange. Then we have DNA and protein synthesis, nucleic acids, cell recognition, digestion, absorption, mass transport, and then it just completely dips off down to like these little trickly marks here and there throughout the paper, right? What does this red dashed box tell us? This tells you that if you got 100% in these subtopics, I'm just going to call them topics for the rest of this video. If you got 100% in these topics, you would have got an A, okay, right here. If all you knew was transport across cell membranes, gas exchange, DNA and protein synthesis, nucleic acids are important, or you could switch any of these three out, right? Because they're all eight marks each. Or you could even throw this guy in right here. If you learn them 100% and got everything you needed to in the exam from these topics alone, you would have got 50 marks, which is above the threshold for an A. Okay, so that's why I want you to realize here, guys, is that even though these top scoring marks may vary slightly depending on your unique paper in that year, overall, if you focus on specific topics, they will come up more often because they're favored by the exam board, because normally they're more difficult, or they test your knowledge on something specific that Ofqual needs to see. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So cool, we've looked at 2020, guys. What I want to do now is sort of exemplify to you that you cannot look at one year and think, okay, cool, 2020, all I need to know was this, and this. Let's do it. Let's go. We can't do that, guys. You need to look at all the years, okay? So this chart right here is essentially a repeat of this one, but it's just showing us every single mark that was up for grabs from 2017 to 2023. Now, I've left a cutoff point here. I thought I don't really care about talking in this video. Anything below 10 marks across 7 years, I don't really care about. You should care about it if you're going for an A-star, but for the sake of this, I'm going to leave it off. And also, it just wouldn't really fit on the screen that well. So yeah, that's why I left that off. But what can we see here, guys? We can see that these topics right here are pretty much double everything else, okay? So that is where I would sort of just first glance think, okay, I should focus on these topics more than the rest. And then what we'll do in a second is I'll look at a frequency table and a summary table, and that is really where you want to focus. So if you don't care about anything else, skip ahead. All right, guys, what I want to show to you here is just how important this thinking is, right? Let's say you have two people. One person spends 10 hours revising cell recognition and the immune system, right? Just randomly, they're like, you know what, I'm going to put 10 hours into this topic and learn it. And then someone else says, you know what, I'm going to put 10 hours into learning DNA, genes, and chromosomes. These two people, they've both studied for 10 hours. They studied so hard, man. They did all the right stuff, active recall, past paper questions, all that good stuff. Who do you think is going to get more marks in the exam? Or who is more likely to get more marks in the exam? This person that did 10 hours in cell recognition and the immune system because they knew which topic. Well, they didn't know. It was random in that example. But essentially, what I need to get across to you guys is that you need to spend your revision where it counts, okay? Along here somewhere, for the most part. There's obviously fundamentals that you can't escape and things you need to sort of just know to get the A-star. But that's just what I want to get across to you, is that it's not as even as you may think. I know I'm rambling like crazy here, but two people doing the same amount of hours of revision are not the same thing, okay? Just get that into your head and you'll all be good. Now, this is where we're going to go on to the summary table. This is super, super important. If you can screenshot this, send it to all your mates that are doing bio, it will help them out so much. If I had a time machine, I'd send it to myself and all my friends. I'd just be like, look at this, guys. Stop wasting your time. Let's focus on what's important. Let's get those A's and A stars and get into uni. That is the whole point of doing A-levels. I'm not studying for fun. All right, just add some water. Let's look at this. So the colors, I know it's an absolute mess right now. I'm going to try and think of a way to improve it. But for now, these colors are coded to the different topics, right? So red is 3.1, biological molecules. The greeny, bluey cyan is 3.2 cells. Yellow is 3.3 organisms exchanged substances, and 3.4 is genetic information, right? The dark navy one. So what we can see here is that we have the total marks from 2017 to 2023, okay? So these marks right here, pretty simple. And then we have the paper frequency. What does the paper frequency tell us? That just means that this topic, one of these topics, came up this number of times across the years. So if it's 7, it means it came up in all 7 papers. If it's 6, it came up in 6 of the 7 papers. If it's 5, it came up in 5 of the papers, and so on. All right, you hopefully get that. It's really simple. It's been in all my videos so far. And this one right here is really interesting to pay attention to. Average marks per paper. Okay, this is just simply this raw marks divided by the frequency, and that gives us an average marks per paper. What does this tell us? It essentially tells us the bang for your buck in revising that topic. So for example, this topic right here, cell recognition and the immune system, has come up 7 times every single year. So this is a no-brainer for me to revise, come up every single time. And it has a 9.4 average mark allocation, which means that when it is given to you, it has a high amount of marks. Now let's look at something that varies to this, right? Let's look at carbohydrates. Now carbohydrates is actually a pretty good topic because it teaches you the fundamentals of different types of bonds and how we break things apart and form them back together, like monomers, polymers, and all that stuff. It's come up 7 times, right? But it has an average mark allocation of 3.9. So when it does come up, you have a lot less marks up for grabs. I hope that makes sense. So similar to this one right here, this has come up only 6 times. So there was a paper skip, but when it did show up, it had 10 marks available. Okay, so not only are these heavy hitter topics, as in they come up the most with the highest frequency, they also have the highest average marks when they do come up. I hope that makes sense. So how are we going to use this table? You're going to want to spend most of your revision time, especially in exam season, study leave, all that stuff, focusing on the heavy hitters right near the top. Okay, so obviously cell recognition and the immune system is the highest here. It's come up in every single paper, closely followed by mass transport. Those are the 2 that you really want to look at. Okay, then from there, transport across cell membranes. This is super useful, can't escape this. Proteins is a really important topic. Particularly in paper 1, they love to ask you about proteins, okay? Enzyme activity, stuff like that. That makes up a lot of the protein side of things. And then from there, guys, you can honestly just sort of go pick any topics in amongst the top marks and then go wild, right? Just start doing past paper questions, start doing your flashcards, and you should be all good to go. Seriously, there's months and months left before paper 1, 2, and 3. You have a lot of these like species, taxonomy, and biodiversity questions that pop up here and there, but they're so low down on the spectrum that we don't really need to be too concerned about them, okay? If you're just banging this revision out and all you want is an A, I would say focus up here, you're all good to go. Obviously, if you need an A star, it is really good to get those little marks that come up. But the same approach applies, guys. You want to start near the top, okay? Use this table however you want. Seriously, send it to your mates. I think it will honestly help them so much in terms of the amount of time they spend wasting on this stuff. Last thing I want to do is study 24/7. I hope you found this video helpful, guys. I put a lot of time into it. So if you did like the video, it's really appreciated and it helps the channel grow. Leave any comments down below. Subscribe for future videos. All the best in your studying and upcoming exams, guys. Until next time, peace.